Jack Abbott stood at the window, his eyes staring out at the skyline of Genoa City, lost in thought. The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the city, but Jack couldn't shake the cold unease that had settled in his chest. It had been a tense few days, and now, with everything hanging in the balance, he felt the weight of what was to come. Billy had arrived at his house earlier that day, looking more than a little frantic. The urgency in his eyes had been impossible to ignore. Jack had known from the moment Billy stepped inside that something serious was happening. The news Billy delivered was worse than anything Jack could have imagined. "Dad, they've got him," Billy had said, his voice tight with emotion. "Victor has Jack. He's demanding we return Chancellor by the end of the day or they won't ever let him go." Jack had felt the blood drain from his face. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was personal. His brother, his flesh and blood, was being held hostage by the very man they had fought against for so long. Jack had always known that Victor Newman was a force to be reckoned with, but this was different. Victor was playing for keeps now, and he was using Jack as leverage in his high-stakes game. Billy had been beside himself, packing back and forth. "We have to do something, we can't just give up Chancellor. If we do, it's all over for us." Jack had turned to face his son, a steely resolve settling in. "I know, but there's something you're not seeing, Billy. This isn't just about Chancellor. This is about Victor trying to control everything. He wants us to bend, to give in to his demands, but we can't let that happen." Billy had raised an eyebrow. "You think we can just refuse him?" Jack's gaze had hardened. "I'm not saying we refuse him outright, but we need to think carefully about what Victor is really after here. He's always 2 steps ahead. He wants to break us, to make us doubt ourselves, and I'm not going to let that happen." Billy had been furious. "You're talking like it's just business. This is Jack we're talking about. He's in danger." Jack had taken a deep breath, trying to calm himself. "I know, but we can't make rash decisions. I need to think this through. We need to figure out what Victor wants from us and how we can turn the tables." As the conversation continued, Jack couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. He had known Victor long enough to understand that the man didn't operate on simple terms. There was more to this than just Chancellor. Victor always had a bigger plan, and Jack had a feeling that they were about to find out exactly what that plan was. Hours later, Jack had a meeting with Diane Jenkins Abbott. Her presence always made things feel more complicated, but in this moment it was necessary. She had always been a part of his life in one way or another, and now she was caught up in the whirlwind of the Newman family's drama again. Diane had walked into Jack's office with a look of concern on her face. "Jack, what's going on? Billy just told me about the situation with Victor. What are we going to do?" Jack had looked up at her, his expression unreadable. "I don't know yet, but I'm working on it." Diane hadn't been satisfied with that answer. "You don't seem worried enough. You're acting like you have everything under control. This is serious, Jack. Victor doesn't play fair." "I know," Jack had replied, his voice tight, "but we can't let him get into our heads. I won't give him the satisfaction of watching us fall apart." Diane had sighed, her frustration clear. "This isn't just about business, it's about Jack's safety. You can't let Victor do this, he's capable of anything." Jack had nodded slowly, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. "I know, and I won't let him win, but we can't just rush into something. I have to think this through. I have to make sure we're doing the right thing." Diane had crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "And what exactly is the right thing, Jack? We can't just sit back and let him control everything. You've gone to extremes before to help Nikki, and I can't say I'm thrilled about that, but now you're doing the same thing for Victor. Are you really willing to risk everything for him?" Jack had felt his temper flare, but he kept it under control. "This is different, Diane. I'm not doing this for Victor. I'm doing this for Nikki. And I'm doing this because it's the right thing. We can't let the Newmans control us." Diane's eyes had softened. "I just want to make sure you're not making the same mistakes again. I don't want to see you get hurt." Jack had looked at her, a mixture of gratitude and guilt in his eyes. "I know, but I have to do this, for the family, for all of us." As the conversation continued, Jack's mind was racing. He couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't adding up. He knew that Victor was playing a game, and Jack had to figure out what the end game was. But in the meantime, he was stuck in the middle of it, forced to make decisions that would affect everyone around him. Later that night, Jack had retreated to his private office, alone with his thoughts. He couldn't help but wonder if his actions would lead to a fallout with Diane. She wasn't the only one who had been burned by his past decisions, but he couldn't afford to second-guess himself now. He had to focus on what was at stake. Jack had always been a fighter, and he wasn't about to back down now. The next day, Jack and Billy had a tense meeting in Jack's office. Billy was restless, packing back and forth as Jack sat behind his desk, his mind still racing from the previous night's events. "So what's the plan?" Billy asked, his voice tight with frustration. "How are we going to get Jack back?" Jack looked up at him, his expression cold. "We're not going to rush in blindly. Victor wants us to panic. He wants us to make a mistake, but we're not going to give him that satisfaction." Billy stopped packing and turned to face Jack. "You're not planning to give in to him, are you?" Jack's eyes narrowed. "We're not giving in, but we're not going to make it easy for him either. We have to think ahead. If we give in to his demands, we're playing right into his hands." Billy crossed his arms. "Then what? Do we just wait around and hope he lets Jack go?" Jack didn't respond immediately. He was deep in thought, weighing his options. "We'll have to make Victor think we're ready to surrender, but we'll be setting him up in the process. He's too arrogant to see it coming." Billy raised an eyebrow. "And what if we're wrong? What if he kills Jack before we can do anything?" Jack's jaw tightened. "I don't think he will. He wants to break us, not kill us. As long as we play it smart, we can get Jack back without giving up Chancellor." Billy nodded slowly, though his concern was still clear. "I just don't want to see anyone else get hurt, especially not Jack." Jack leaned back in his chair. "We'll do whatever it takes to get him back, but we're not going to be bullied into making rash decisions, not this time." Later that day, Jack received a call from Victor. His heart sank as he picked up the phone. "Jack," Victor's voice was as cold as ever. "I trust you've made your decision." "I'm still thinking it over," Jack replied, his voice measured. "But I'm not going to let you control everything. You've been trying to break us for too long." Victor chuckled darkly. "You always think you're in control, Jack, but this time it's different. This time I have the upper hand." Jack clenched his fists, his frustration boiling over. "You don't have the upper hand yet. We're still in this fight." "You're running out of time," Victor warned. "And so is your brother. Don't make me wait too long." As Jack hung up the phone, he couldn't shake the feeling that Victor had already won, but he wasn't ready to admit defeat yet, not after everything they had been through. Billy walked into the office just as Jack was about to pick up his phone. "What now?" Jack's eyes were cold. "We keep going, we keep fighting." The battle was far from over, and Jack knew that the road ahead would be full of twists and turns. But one thing was certain, he wasn't going to let Victor have the last word. As Jack looked out the window, the weight of the situation bore down on him. There were still so many unanswered questions. What was Victor really after? And how far was Jack willing to go to protect his family? But for now, Jack would keep his cards close to his chest. He wasn't going to play by Victor's rules. This time, Jack was going to play the game on his terms. And in the end, no matter how messy it got, Jack knew one thing: he wasn't going down without a fight.